You are.
You better believe it.
But see, I think that's why.
She'll come up to me and give me hugs all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I should say it in front of her or not, but she's a lady, so I think she resents Judy as a woman
Mm-hmm.
coming in for me, to me, when Judy comes home to me. She comes home to us,
Mm-hmm.
but she comes home to me.
How does that sound,
And I
Pam?
think she resents her as a
I hear you.
woman to woman.
I think that's good. That's a good
No,
observation. Pam,
we've talked that one over before.
that's true?
Sometimes, depending on what mood I'm in. You know, sometimes I'll say, oh my, how was your day? I'll just, whatever.
You know, we don't have time, and I wish we did, because I like the way this is going well. But there's a piece in this that you've got to do, or this won't work, and I'm not sure what it is. But let me throw something out to you. My thought is this, and it's just sort of a general idea, that if you were, in effect, to say to Pam, if you're not cooperative, if you're not more civil with your mom, don't come hugging on me.
It's been tried. It's been done.
And?
Stayed away from me for a long time.
And? What happened?
Then she started being nicer to her mother, and then she came back to me.
Well then?
She had to go to her mother first.
Well, then you got it. You got the formula.
There isn't too much that I didn't
Wait a minute, you got the formula.
try. You know,
Okay, let me tell you what happens with kids. What happens with kids is that they will respond to the things that we do. Yeah. But then when we slacken off, slack off, they go back to the old stuff. So if you're going to do something and it works, you got to stay with it. If you stay with it, it will work. I think you already know what will work. So all I'm saying to you right here is, if you do what already worked, and Judy does this new thing, you're going to have a better balance at home.
again, this is
Go ahead.
communicating between the three of us.
Go ahead.
Her and I, Judy and Pam,
Right?
me and Judy. But the whole problem is, it happened today.
Yeah.
I said, and I don't even remember what it was, but I said something to her,
To whom now?
to Pam. 'Cause
Right.
Judy wasn't home yet.
Okay.
Said something to Pam, and you could tell in the tone that she used
Right?
that she was angry, and she walked away, and she was already in the hallway mumbling in
Right.
anger.
Okay.
And I turned around and I hollered at her
Right?
and says, "You're talking like your mother, and I can't hear you. Maybe I'm going deaf, but I can't hear you. You're mumbling like your mother does."
Go ahead. And?
So she went into the kitchen and started mumbling some more, and I said it again, and then she said something out loud.
Right?
And I don't even remember what the words were now.
Okay.
But I can remember the incident,
Right?
and I don't remember what caused it. But this is what I would like to get stopped, is this anger and the mumbling
Okay.
under the breath.
Adrian, look.
You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
This is what I don't understand.
Look, let me tell you what's going on. Pam is so used to being a spoiled brat, okay, that it's affecting everything that she does at home. Okay, you can't fix everything at once. Okay, I'm suggesting that you hold on to one thing and stay with it. And I'm suggesting to you that it will work if you do that. And Pam wants you to do that, I think, which is, okay, Judy is going to be saying to Pam, in effect, do you want me to be your mother? Okay, if you want me to be the mother, I need to have you be an adult. Do you want to be an adult, or do you want to be a spoiled brat? That's what she's going to be saying, asking her over and over and over. And if Pam responds like a spoiled brat, Judy says, okay, you made your choice. Okay. At the same time, what you already tried and worked, if you stay with that, which is, Pam, You know, you want to be close to me and affectionate with me, I've got to see you treat your mother better than the way you're treating her. Because if not, okay, I'm not playing ball. Just stay with that. I think it'll work. And the reason I believe it'll work is because Judy really loves this young woman. And Judy's going to have a chance, and Pam is going to have a chance to see what it's like to have a mother who has a chance to show her affection. Judy will only have a chance to show her affection if she doesn't have to compete with you. If Pam experiences the two of you working together to get the right balance here, it will work.
I thought we've been trying. That's what I thought we've been trying.
Okay, but we've got something new today.
You know.
We've got something new today.
Try something new. And
Okay, but it's going to require that you and Judy work together. Saying we're not going to let Pam play one off against the other. We're not going to let Pam treat Dad like, you know, he's great and Mom's, you know, just a nasty old lady here. Okay, and this is what Pam wants, right, Pam? Am I right?
I want both of them to like me.
They're both going to like you. That's what we're talking about.
Love you.
That's the point. And this is your chance to get them both to love you, instead of just having one to love you.
Oh, okay. I see.
Okay? So they will work together to try to get this balanced out so you feel like I'm close to my dad and I'm close to my mom. And at the same time, I can finally stop being a spoiled brat. I can finally grow up. Are you with me, Pam? Mm-hmm. You know what I'd like you to do, Pam? I'd like you to reach out with each hand and grab your mom's hand and your dad's hand at the same time.
okay.
Please.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think you guys got it if you'll stay with this. And I think you'll make Pam a very happy young woman. Okay, folks, we're done.
Okay. Thank you.
Good work.
I didn't see
Thank
that.
you.
Good work, Adrian.
Thank you.
It was
Pam?
very nice tonight.
Good work.
Thank you.
We'll give it a try.
Stop saying that. It's going to work if you stay with it. I'm telling you, you can't fail.
Okay. I hope.
You have her on your side, but you got to be consistent. It'll work.
Tough contexts. Wow, Harry, that was really something to watch you work with that family. Would you think, is this a good example of structural family therapy?
Yeah, it's a very good example of structural family therapy. It's the organization of the family and how it was contributing to the problem was just so obvious.
Yeah.
It became more apparent as the session progressed, but it was, you know, father and daughter,
Yeah.
and then the mother out here. Okay, so that, which I had a hint of at the beginning, which is why then you saw me look for an issue between mother and daughter,
Sure.
and I ignored father's relationship with the daughter. But that was based on a hypothesis.
Yeah.
Okay, that was what needed to happen in order to rebalance this family.
And I like the way that you changed your role, too. At the beginning, you were kind of distant and just asking some questions, and at the end, you were almost like a stern father giving directions.
Well, that's the pattern. You know, the pattern is be present, observe, find out where to connect, how to connect, what language to use that fits with them, that they resonate to. tease out their story, tease out their emotions, allow for a little trust to begin to build. Okay. And then as the focus gets clearer, as we begin to create some momentum towards movement, then move in more actively to promote that movement.
I was impressed in how you kept the father, kind of controlled him, and yet you kept him.
Mm-hmm.
When he kept coming up with "and another thing" kind of responses, and you would tell him wait or let's get back to focus, and yet you didn't lose him. You maintained that.
Well, that's one of the things that you absolutely have to learn if you're going to do structural work, which is when you begin to reorganize and you encourage involvement, not the usual involvement among family members, and you begin to push other family members out, you need to keep them connected. They may not be disqualified. If you disqualify them, if you try to cut them out, you amputate them from the family, you will lose because they will not allow that to happen.
Yeah.
They have to trust you enough to say, okay, I'll step back. I won't lose my family. I won't lose my place in the family. I'll trust this guy to keep me involved.
Where would you go next if you were to meet with this family again or for future sessions? Where would you see the direction going?
In two directions. One is that I would expect them to start and give up within a day or two and try.
We tried that.
Yeah. And one direction would be to get back to the focus, to reinforce the intervention, to reinforce what I think will work. And the other direction is to start going a little deeper, start going into other layers. So you can have access to the dynamics that are contributing to what's taking place. Here we touched on those dynamics. We only had one session. Okay? The assumption is that there are forces in there that will work against their maintaining this direction. You have to see them, you have to connect with them, and you have to begin to decide which ones do I have to work with.
I was intrigued by this one statement that you made, and you asked Pam, how can I help you to not get your way? I mean, it sounds like that. Is that unique to pancake therapy or whatever was going on here?
Well, it was, I'll answer this from two directions. One is that if you observe this session, what we didn't comment on is that from the very beginning, Pam is completely disqualified and disqualifies herself. She has no voice. She has nothing to say. She has no answer. Neither of them expect her to have an answer. She doesn't expect to be listened to. See, the work of the whole session was continually going back to, well, you really have emotions. You really do have something to say. You're not saying it because you're angry. There is a reason for this. Okay, you are a real person. And it's progressively creating more space for Pam in that family. Space as a person. Part of that, of course, is to then Pam begins to make decisions for herself. Yes, I want to change. Yes, I want to grow up. Yes, I do not want to have my way because that hurts me. I'm not happy about that. To what extent can the therapist get this person to make this her therapy? Okay. From the other direction, in terms of answering your question, is that I just think there is a power in simply people feeling that they are choosing whatever it is that they're going to do. So much of therapy, particularly strategic therapy, short-term therapy, is we're doing it. You know, we're pushing them, we're directing them, we're assigning, and you disempower people, and you lose you lose their momentum in the process. I want people to feel I am choosing this.
Even if it's to not get your way.
Even if it's to not get your way, because the other flip side of it was, you don't like yourself this
Yeah.
way.
When you get your way,
Yeah.
you don't like yourself.
Right.
Sure.
Or
You're
you're
a
constantly battling.
But she said it, She said, I'm a spoiled brat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And these boundaries that this family set just weren't really clear enough, so that people could individuate and could have their separateness. And they also, that they weren't permeable enough so that people could have mutual support and that they could really care for one another. And I thought it really explains what was happening here with this family system.
I agree. I agree. I think the father, I'm guessing, I don't know, I think the father overwhelmed his family. Okay? I think the mother acted quite insecure. She acted like a mother who didn't believe in her leverage with her own child.
Yeah.
She gave way to this guy just too easily. And he is big, not just physically big. He takes up space with his voice, with his intensity, and so she serves him. At least that's how I saw it. And Pam read it correctly. If I want to get a good place in this family, I need him on my side.
Yeah.
So she went to him. So
To the power.
the boundaries had to do with a mother getting more space for herself, daughter getting more space for herself, the relationship of mother and daughter getting more space for itself.
I thought this was, again, the one thing else that I noticed is that you were really trying to activate some dormant structures in the family, such as some things that they had tried, some things that they were able to do, as well as to create some new things. There was a nice balance of the two. Yeah. Do you do much of that? I mean, what's the proportion of needing to create new things or to find things that already exist within the family?
Growth comes from what's already there. If as therapists, if we don't tap into what's already positive, the power that's really there, the motivation that's already there, we've got nothing to build on. We don't build change in them on what we do. We build on what they have and what they've already been doing. So you got to go for what's been there.
So looking for what's there and is dormant or not present or
That's
that
right.
they're not using right now.
Yeah. I mean, if you play that tape back, you will see how many negative responses they gave, and then I go back with something positive. I go back to where the potential is. Okay, to what they already said that was useful, that was a legitimate focus. And because if we're going to move for change, especially if you're thinking about brief therapy, for example, you've got to pick up on the momentum that's there, which means picking up on what's positive, which means picking up on what's the power that's already there. You've got to identify it, you've got to harness it, you've got to make it work for what you're trying to accomplish at that moment.
Well, why don't we go to the audience and see what questions that they may have about the therapy session for now, and then later on about the theory.
Harry, I'd like to make a comment or ask you a question about your last comment. You talked about growth comes from what's already there, and I've seen this family before, and I was beginning to feel a little hopeless myself watching them because they're so entrenched. It's almost like the one thing they all agree on is why Pam shouldn't grow up.
Right.
But you saw hope there. So what were those strengths that you saw as working with them the first time? Where is that hope?
There were so many things that were there. One, this Pam kid who at first comes across as somebody who's really handicapped, mentally handicapped. When you pay attention to her, you realize she's right on target. She makes very accurate observations. And she makes accurate observations even about herself. There's an honesty there. Okay. There's a directness there. that I felt, I can connect to, this I can relate to. With the mother, early on, I don't know if you could see it on the video, but early on there was emotion in this woman, emotion related to her daughter. Her eyes welled up very quickly, and it all had to do with this kid, my daughter. So that I just knew that there was affection there. So I wanted to try to work on the structure and begin to create new spaces, but I wanted to do that in the context of the love. The genuine human love that was there. That would be the fuel. That would be the soul. That would bring it to life. Okay, so I was paying attention to both. It was there.
One dynamic that stood out for me was when you suggested that Pam, was very, very afraid to grow up and that, she might be kicked out. How would you address that in future sessions? And does it always stay in the family sessions, or do you ever spin off and do individual work within a family systems approach?
I have no problem spinning off. And if you know anything about structural, it's a very common thing to work with subsystems.
I meant like an individual, not within the family grouping, but like, okay, do some individual work as well.
That's a subsystem of the family.
Okay.
But you do it strategically. You have the family. Where am I working with the system? Where is everybody? Where are the combinations? Mm-hmm. Is this a time to see this individual? Okay. Will that work for what they're all trying to accomplish as well as what this person is trying to accomplish? Because we do that in the session. In a certain sense, you saw me trying to get them to interact with each other, and time again it failed. Yeah. So I had to go in and talk with the individual myself and then bring them to a place where then they could respond to one another. That is a mirror of what one might do in an individual session. In other words, I need to work with this person, help this person get from A to D before I can get them back into meeting with the partner, with the other, and then have a mutual interchange.
And in this particular situation, how would you have handled that aspect?
In this particular, I would not want to separate anybody right now. In this particular situation, there's such a delicate balance there that if I don't get everybody's cooperation, it's going to fail. They can undermine. And any other one or two can undermine a third party here. So right now, I need to have them all together, balancing and rebalancing.
She brings up an interesting point, though, about the fear that Pam felt, that she was caught between two places, either staying there and not individuating and being a spoiled brat, or getting kicked out of the house if she grew. And you brought this new possibility that you could grow up and stay.
But it's a possibility that's based on on just normal growth and development. Kids grow up in families, and they grow up feeling a certain competence. So that at the point where it comes to leaving, it just feels natural. And so Pam had not achieved that sense of competence, had not achieved the sense of, I know how to have a relationship as an adult, where I have some control over how close a person is to me, how distant a person is to me. She didn't have that competence. She wasn't ready to move out.
The whole family seemed somewhat relieved at that possibility. Yeah. I thought that was a nice, if we're working in the cognitive area with changing some thinking.
They also didn't want to lose their child.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Yeah.
Obviously she's not communicating very much, and she's not wanting to say why she's angry, but you said right off the bat, it's because you're spoiled.
It didn't come from me.
That's right.
Huh?
It did not come from me.
It didn't come from you?
No. No. The father said she was spoiled, and then she agreed, and then she just added a little color to it and said, I'm a spoiled brat.
Which is better than a spoiled child.
Yeah, well,
To step up?
it said more about what she felt about herself. It wasn't mine.
And then that's how you came to the conclusion that it's a bad thing, because
I just felt her pain, you know. I mean, look, this young woman is crying throughout most of the session. What's the response of the family to the crying? What's her response to her crying? Oh, I do this all the time. Mother said, she just cries. Well, okay, this isn't the real person. You know, you just turn the faucet on and it just comes out. There's no real meaning to this. Okay? I just took it as, oh, she's in pain. And I'm going to speak to that pain. And I believe that she recognized, yes, somebody understands how much pain I'm in. This does hurt. I don't like to be a spoiled brat.
And there's evidence that when she's working outside the home, she's not spoiled and she's not in pain.
That's right. And she likes herself more. She's a competent person. So I was trying to speak to her pain and work from there. I don't want to be in this place. I don't like who I am in here. I don't know what else to do. I don't know how else to do it, but I don't like me. You know? And I don't like the way I feel in this family. Work from there.
But I feel loyal to this family.
Yeah.
Sure. This
And
is
I
my
have to
family.
That's why I come home.
That's right. This is it. You know, this is an adopted daughter. Okay, this is an adopted child. Which has-
Surviving child.
It's surviving a sibling that committed suicide. Okay, so you put that all together. You're talking about the loss, potential loss. Who do I belong to? Okay, there's a lot of threat there of ending up with nobody else to be connected to.
I was really intrigued by the mixture that you had of the warmth and care and really going after the person's hurt. I really sense that in you, but also being very direct in some of the interventions you had. I was really intrigued with one of the statements that you made. I even wrote it down. You said to Pam, the more you are an adult, the more you will have a mother. And I was wondering if you would be able to comment just a bit more on that statement and some others like that and where you were going with those.
My hypothesis was, and by the way, this work is based on having hypotheses. You cannot go be as focused and as stubborn in staying on a particular goal unless you have some hypothesis that's driving it. And my hypothesis was that Pam only knew having a mother from a very regressed place, you know, of I am incompetent and my mother is in control, and I can have my mother through a negative interaction. That was my hypothesis, and that Pam did not know what it would mean to have a mother, to be a child to a mother and have control in the relationship, have influence in the relationship, have leverage in the relationship, have it so that you have something to do with making the relationship work for you as well as for the other person. And that level of mature interaction, my sense was she doesn't know that this can be. She hasn't experienced it. She doesn't experience it with her father. Okay, he makes it work in another way, but in neither relationship does this young woman know how to have a voice, participate actively. Okay, so then I try to formulate it, use words that I thought would speak to her heart. I thought, she wants a mother. Okay, so let me put this in a formulation that says, hey, you want a mother? This is how you get a mother. You know.
Thank you.
And I heard the mother, you know, make some expression of how she'd like to have a daughter, too.
Oh, yes, that's when
Yeah.
she got most emotional.
Yeah.
I would just like to be cleaning up the kitchen with
And
her.
talking with her.
And talking with her.
Yeah.
Sure.
In the opening interview, you mentioned that there's a difference between being an active therapist and a directive one. What is that difference?
You know, it's the difference between participating fully in a relationship with somebody, in a mutual relationship with somebody, and trying to manipulate them. Hopefully I wasn't manipulating them, okay? So I'd like to be able to say to somebody, this is what I think about you, and this is what I think you ought to do, without it being some sort of, without my trying to use coercion or intimidation or seduction, okay? That it genuinely be, I can express myself and be engaged with you, and at the same time leave room for you, because I want you to be there with me. I want to feel you. I want to get your response. Okay, I want to have something with you, which I felt. I mean, which is where I'm coming from. I don't want to control you.
One of the roots of this approach is that problems occur from structural failings. And do these structural failings, are these things that are passed on from one generation to the next to the next? It almost seems that there's also another component, that they're really created by the environment, by the culture, by the economic level of the families. Any observations on that in your work?
There's, we're talking systems. Structure doesn't just appear. Structure, structure in part is an outgrowth of whatever dynamics are there. We're born with structure, I believe. I think we're by nature, we're supposed to, we relate in certain ways, we need certain things, and that's part of who we are. Which then shapes structure. Okay? But then who we are has all the freedom of our having the capacity to totally mess ourselves up, whether it has to do with the society or with the family, and then of course that then reshapes structure. So you have the interaction between what we're born with and what we need and the things that we do. And it's always an active influence, so that when people talk about structure, one of the one thing that I certainly try to do with students is to say, don't get just stuck on the structure. That doesn't tell you everything. That gives you a picture of the system, but it doesn't give you the soul. You better understand the people. You better understand their history. You better understand their culture. You better understand their spirituality. Okay? That is what gives life and meaning to the structure. You need to deal with both.
So some families may have a father absent home with the father working all the time and be doing well. And others will have the father absent and not be doing well. And the father could be working in both contexts.
Sure. It's one of the things I like about the structural piece is that it's empirical. And we all go with our biases. But we approach the work from, what's the problem?
Yeah.
What is it that you want to change? Rather than with a preconceived notion of, a healthy family is such and such, so no matter what problem you bring, we're going to get you to fit a certain mold of some sort. Get to what's hurting, and connect that to the real people that are there, and now look for the structure.
In your opening comments, Harry, you mentioned values and spirituality and that kind of being the future trend. And you've also mentioned several times the client soul. And it's very clear that the structural component is very much a part of your therapy, but you go far beyond that. And I wonder if you could comment on where you think this is leading you in your own growth and development in terms of values and spirituality and what you hope to be working on in the future.
It has to do with understanding people, and it has to do with working with the potential that people have. I guess because of our biases and the history of therapy, we have a bias against spirituality. Freud certainly had a bias against spirituality. He certainly had a bias against religion. Okay?
Not sex.
Not sex. But he reduced sex to an impulse. You know, he took the soul out of sex. And love wasn't there. Yeah. And I think that bias has influenced us. And yet, in real life, people pray. They have a God. They go to a church. You know, they have a philosophy. They have a way of thinking. It's part of their culture. It's part of what brings them together. It's so much part of life that to not attend to that part of life is just simply to ignore a huge dimension of life. And if we're looking to work with the strength of people, well, if their strength is in what they believe, in their belief system, in their religious community, you know, in their God, why would we ignore that? Why wouldn't we connect with their reality and the sources of their strength? And particularly if you're going to work with the poor, okay, now here you have a situation where it's like the society is conspiring. It's taking everything away from you. Okay? And because of your own personal heritage, perhaps through generations, you know failure much more than you know success. Well, how many of the poor will say to you, well, but there is one place that I can go. You know, God loves me. He will hear me. I can go to church, and there I am accepted for who I am. I have a community. My family may not be there for me. My society may not be there for me, but I have a place where I go, and we pray together. You know, why would you ignore that? Why would you not plug into that? Okay, the delicate piece of that, of course, is that I think we need to do with that what we do with everything else. Is that as therapists, then we need to include that as part of our training. Know our own spirituality, know our own biases, know our own emotional struggles around our spirituality, which is, most of it is connected with our struggles around our families. You know, Mom wanted me to go to church, and I didn't want to go to church because Dad insisted on it, whatever it is, okay? We would